What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Discovering Nicole, where we talk about, discovering me. Um, Tonight I'm going to share my story with you guys, and I would love for you guys to share this video as much as you can. Share it with every person that you follow here on TikTok. And I'm going to do the same. So come on in, y'all. I'm going to share my story with you guys. A lot of you guys haven't heard my story, so let's get into it here in just a second. I'm going to share this video around. I would appreciate it if you guys could do the same. Share the video, like the video, invite your friends. Share the video, like the video, invite your friends. Hey, Eric. Thanks, baby. Today is my birthday. I'm 40 years old today. So come on in, you guys. I'm going to share with you guys my story of how I got sober, and basically from the time I was born till right now, till today, 40 years of story I'm about to tell y'all. So go get yourself a snack, honey. And as you can see, Effie, we're back on this account, girl, because you know what? If I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm writing TikTok every time somebody does that to me. Doesn't it, girl? I'm going to tell you guys my life story. So come on in. This is going to be 40 years worth of life. So come on in, everybody. It might take us about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'm tired of people doing that shit to me. So what's up, everybody? My name is Nicole, and I am a person in recovery. My sobriety date is July 13th of 2014. Hey, Gary. Thank you, baby. My sobriety date is July 13th of 2014. I got sober, or 2015, excuse me. My son was born in 2014. I got sober a year after my son was born. But we're going to get into all that later on in the story. So you guys come on in. Go get yourself a snack. Go get yourself something to drink. Go get yourself a pillow because, honey, we're going to be here for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So go get yourself something to snack on. We're going to cry together. We're going to laugh together. We're going to do everything together in this little hour and a half, 2 hours we'll be on here. So you guys, I never thought I would make it to 40 years old, okay? I can remember being sick in opiate withdrawal and feeling like I wish I would die. I can remember thinking I would be better off. My family would be better off. My son would be better off. Everybody would be better off without me if I was just dead. You know? And I truly believed that in my heart of hearts, that if I would die, that everyone else would be better off. Well, baby, I'm so glad that I didn't die, because then I wouldn't be able to get to know all of you guys, and I wouldn't get to share my story, and I wouldn't get to be with my son. I remember my earliest memory is when I was 5 years old. I was in kindergarten. And I remember my mom had sewn me this beautiful dress. It was red with white polka dots. And it had a lace collar and white lace trim. And I wore these little white socks that went up my calf with the lace around it. And then black patent leather Mary Janes. And I had little pigtails that came out, and they were long as hell. Because, see, my mom raised us up in a Pentecostal household. Pentecostal, where we couldn't cut our hair, we couldn't wear makeup, we couldn't pierce our ears, we couldn't wear pants, we had to wear dresses or culottes. Have you ever heard of culottes, kids? Y'all probably haven't, but that's what we had to wear. And so my earliest memory is being 5 years old and wearing that dress to school and just feeling so pretty in it, you know? Because at that age, I didn't know that I was different than everybody else. I had no clue that I was different. I thought I was the same as everyone else at school. Well, I quickly realized that I wasn't the same as everyone else. I wasn't white. I wasn't blonde-haired. I wasn't super skinny. My parents weren't wealthy. And I felt that because my mom sewed my clothes. See, my mom sewed all of our clothes until we were like in fourth or fifth grade. No, fourth grade. Okay. So already at the age of 5, like I'm starting to feel insecure. Thank you, Lori. I'm starting to feel insecurity about myself because I know that I'm different than all the other kids. I know that my outfits aren't the same as them. I know that my skin color isn't the same as them. And I can remember being called taco and burrito and crying my eyes out because I did not understand why people were laughing at me for being brown. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, my mom is Mexican. She had to learn how to speak English. When she was in school, she would speak Spanish, and the nuns at her Catholic school would take a ruler and smack her knuckles every time she spoke Spanish. And that's how my mom learned to speak English. And my dad is Italian. When my mom and my dad met, they met in Arkansas, Jacksonville, Arkansas to be exact. They were both in the Air Force. Well, when they met, they automatically fell in love. You know why they fell in love, honey? Because they was fighting over a piece of pizza. That isn't it just like my family, okay? We love to eat, okay? And that gene didn't miss me at all. I love to eat too. And so they were fighting over the last piece of pizza, and they ended up going out on their first date. And my dad and my mom just hit it off. My dad still has a picture of my mom in the tube top and bell bottoms when she was like 19 years old. And when I tell y'all, my mom, J-Lo, that's what she looked like, J-Lo. So anyway, I was always super tan, both sides of my family. My dad's tan, my mom's tan. We all have black hair, super thick black hair, you know. So I grew up in a predominantly all-white school in the country. And so I was raised up in the country. I mean, listen to my accent. Do I sound like I'm Mexican? No. And honey, I can barely speak a lick of Spanish. When we were getting raised up, my dad was super duper controlling over what my mom taught us. And my mom she started out speaking Spanish to me and my sisters. And she was teaching it to us, and we were going to be fluent in it. Well, my dad, being the Italian control freak that he is, he was like, no, you don't need to be talking to them if I can't understand what you're saying. And so my mom stopped speaking Spanish to us. And I'm telling you this right now, you guys, we regret that now. Because my mom's like, I wish I hadn't listened to your dad. I wish I had spoke Spanish to you guys. So anyways, elementary school was rough for me. I didn't feel good. I didn't feel pretty. I didn't feel accepted. I felt different than everyone else. And that feeling was something that I had since the day I was able to feel. I always had this like deep hole within me that I was trying to like fill with something, anything. And when I was a child, it started out with food. My dad is also a food addict, and my mom also has a problem with food. All of us have a problem with food. We all struggle with our food intake. Me, my 2 sisters, my mom, and my dad. Our whole family does. Because of our culture being Mexican and Italian, okay, we were raised up to eat. Everything was centered around food. Celebrating birthdays, celebrating just anything we did was family and food, okay? For instance, my birthday I just had this weekend with my mom and dad. My mom cooked a huge bowl of fucking raviolis, cheesy raviolis with meatballs this big. Everything. And the way my dad was taught up was eat, manja. Don't speak. When you're at the table, you don't speak unless you're saying to the cook, this is good shit. Or you're asking for seconds. And that's how it was always like in my family. And so me and my sisters grew up having to sit at the dinner table and not being able to leave it until we finished our plates. So needless to say, I had a problem with food. I would overeat, and I started gaining weight at around the age of like 5th grade, I think, 5th or 6th grade. And I can remember, you know, when you hit that awkward point in your puberty where you're like not skinny, but you're not fat. That was what was happening to me. And I was so embarrassed. That year, my mom had decided that we were not going to go to the Pentecostal church anymore and that we were going to become non-denominational. Thank you, guys. And so this meant that we could actually wear pants and wear makeup and get our ears pierced and get our hair cut. When I tell you guys, I hadn't had a haircut. My hair was down past my butt. That's how long my hair is. And you guys see how thick it is right now. Imagine it long all the way down my butt. All right? So we started being able to wear pants, and this made me feel so much more accepted. I felt like I could fit in with everybody now, you know? And I started like noticing boys. Me and my sister started like, coming into our own. Well, the time I hit 7th grade, you guys, I was getting to become boy crazy. I had a crush on this guy named JR, and I just knew that he was going to be my boyfriend. Well, 7th into 8th grade year, I lost a bunch of weight, okay? And then my 8th grade into 9th grade year, I lost even more because my mom took me to the doctor and my doctor prescribed me phentermine. Phentermine is an amphetamine. It's Adipex. And what it does is it helps to keep your appetite down, and it also makes your heart rate go up. And so I was taking that phentermine and I dropped weight like this. I was only on it for 2 months, but that was enough for me to lose like 50 pounds. Okay. And when I tell you I was chunky when I was growing up, I'm not talking about 200 pounds. I was maybe like 160, 165. I wish I could be that weight again now. Like, I was skinny back then and I was tripping on myself. But that's how insecure I was. That's how I didn't feel like I was enough. I always never felt like I was enough. My mom and dad were amazing parents. They raised me and my sister right. My parents are still married to this day. My sisters and I are best friends. But I never felt like I was good enough, ever. So my 8th grade year, I started dating the JR guy. And honey, let me just tell you, that fool cheated on me. We were together for 7 months and he cheated on me with a girl named Rhonda. I will never forget Rhonda. I'll never forget it. She was short, way shorter than I was. She had frizzy, curly brown hair, and she wasn't even cute. She was not even, compared to me, I was a dime and she was a 5. Like, seriously, he stepped down. You know what I mean? And so once we broke up, my feelings were really, really hurt, but I knew that I had come into my own. Exactly. Everybody #fuck Rhonda. I was coming into my own and I knew it. I was starting to feel myself. My boobies were coming in. My hiney was coming in. My legs, and I was tan. I was on the cheer team and I was on the marching band and I was playing fast pitch softball. So I was like, stacked. I was looking good. And so I didn't need him anyway. I was going to find me a new man. So I did. Only let me tell you what happened before I found my new man. This would be what would set me up to be bullied my whole 10th grade year. The 9th grade summer into 10th grade, this girl named Bobby had a party. And it was my first ever party where boys and girls were going to be at it. This guy named Joel had a crush on me. And earlier that day, I was on the phone with my best friend, Matt. Me and Matt are still friends to this day. In fact, we talked just last week. And I was on the phone with Matt and I was telling him about how I had just gotten done buying the new apple scented Bath and Body Works shower gel, lotion, and all that. And it smelled so good. It was like country apple or classic apple or something like that. And I was so excited. Well, at that boy-girl party, me and Joel snuck off into the woods. And he touched me. He touched me down there. You know what I'm saying? Fingered me. And for like 2 seconds, you guys. 2 seconds. And we kissed. And then we came out and everybody at the party knew that we had been in the woods doing something together. Well, it just happened that this girl named Jenny that I went to high school with, who was best friends with Bobby, the girl who threw the party, had a crush on Joel. And she was pissed. That night, all them girls stayed the night. We all stayed the night. And they ganged up on me. and this girl named Vanessa. She was a lesbian. I will never forget it, y'all, because we were only in the 9th grade. She was super strong, and she walked up to me and got in my face and was like, how are you going to go in the woods with Joel? Da, da, da. I was crying because I felt so bad because I didn't know that Jenny liked him, or else I would have never done that. I had just broken up. JR had just broken up with me, and I felt so horrible, and I was just on the rebound. You know what I mean? So I slept in the corner of the fucking house all by myself, and all the other girls laughed. And when I woke up the next morning, they had drawn all over my face. They had put shaving cream all over me. And I remember calling my mom and being like, please come and get me. Please come and get me. So my mom came and got me. And when I went back to school the next day, or it was like the Monday, I was at my locker, and every person that walked by was chanting, rotten apples, rotten apples. All the girls were saying, Nicole smells like rotten apples. Oh my God, I was so fucking mortified. I knew right away exactly what happened. Now you guys got to understand, I had never even had sex before, okay? I was a virgin, all right? This guy didn't even go inside of me. It was like the out, like barely even touched me. We didn't even know what we were doing. We were little kids. And so all these girls were saying, rotten apples, rotten apples. That whole year, people called me rotten apples. They would walk by me. They would bump into me at my locker. They would put it on my locker. They would put notes in my... I was tortured and made fun of and basically said that my coochie stank, okay? Imagine that in 9th grade. You know what I mean? And so I made it through my 9th grade without killing myself. I'm telling you guys, it was the worst thing. It was horrible. Once I went into 10th grade, what happened was my sister Michelle was in 9th grade. And so we were in the same building. And so if y'all don't know this about my sister, she's certified. She gets a check. She cray-cray. And so when me and my sister were in school together, them bitches didn't even... The moment they would come over to my locker, my sister would slide in there and beat a bitch down. One day after school, we're outside, and this fucking cunt is talking shit to me, and my sister just runs up behind her, grabs her hair, and bashes her face in, and I mean, crazy. I wouldn't even think about doing something like that, and my sister is just balls to the wall. So now I have backup, you know what I mean? Like now I'm not by myself anymore because I've never been a person who likes to be confronted by others. I'm super nice. I'm always kind to people. I'm loving. I'm very much a pushover. I'm very much like very nice to people. Same here on TikTok. What got done to me last year by all these people on TikTok was the same thing that happened to me when I was in high school. And it's because people think I'm weak because I show my emotions. And it's not that I'm weak. It's because it's not worth it to me to be going back and forth with you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not a mean-hearted person. I'm not a mean-spirited person. I don't get off by calling people names and making fun of them or trying to cancel them or whatever. I don't do that. I don't like that. So it was just like what happened to me here on TikTok with all these girls in this recovery community. Same thing happened to me in high school. And it's because I'm just not going to go back and forth, you know? So people think I'm an easy target. Well, once my sister was in high school with me, nobody fucked with me ever again. Nobody fucked with me ever again. My sister got suspended from school every month. Every month. I would have to go into her classroom and go get her and take her home once I got my own car because my sister would literally cuss the teacher out and fucking threaten the whole classroom. And my sister was like the Tasmanian devil. Okay? She could go around there and she could fight 7 bitches and not even get a scratch on her. Like literally, my sister is crazy. Bad motherfucking to the bone. And so this is where my mom and dad started to notice that there was something going on more with my sister than just being a little feisty. My sister was like running away and not coming home. And she was she would be up for days and not sleep at all. And then she would be sleeping for days and not wake up at all. And so my sister had bipolar disorder and we didn't know it. And so my sister was self-medicating with methamphetamine, trying to fight her bipolar disorder, because she would have these really manic highs and then these really manic lows. And so my sister was acting out in every way that she could. She was being promiscuous. She was running away from home. And eventually what happened was the state of Arkansas came to my parents and they were like, we're going to have to charge you guys with neglect because your daughter's not coming to school. And if she doesn't come to school, you'll go to jail for that, right? And so my parents had to do this thing called a FINS petition, where they're not responsible for her, the state of Arkansas is. So once they did that, my sister was placed in juvie. Okay, they put her in juvenile jail. Now you got to understand something. Me and my sisters are best friends to this day. And so when my sister got put in juvenile jail, me and my baby sister Christine were devastated. We were worried about our sister. You know, we all grew up together. I'm 40, Michelle's 38, and Christine's 37. We're literally back to back. You know what I mean? She's doing great now. And I'll tell you guys all about that. So my sister started abusing drugs yes, the three blind mice, the three musketeers. Everybody knew us. The DeMayo girls is what they called us. That was our last name. The DeMayo girls. And, my sister had started using drugs way before I ever knew what drugs were. Well, I think I was turning 17 and my sister had just been placed in this place called the Rose Home. And I'll tell you what happened. My sister had gotten so combative and she was like running away from home and fighting my parents, and she was chasing me and my sister in the morning time around the house with a butcher knife. Like, it was really getting scary. That my mom and dad had to drug her. They had to put a sleeping medication in her drink. And she drank it and she went to sleep, and they were able to put her in the car and drive her up to this place in Little Rock. It was a mental institution. Well, when my dad opened up the door to get her out, she had woke up and she ran and she darted. And my dad had to catch her and throw her over his shoulder, crying. And I've only seen my dad cry a handful of times. That time when his dad passed away and when our dog Petey passed away. That's it. And when I was in a coma. That's the only time I've ever seen my dad cry. And so he had to catch my sister and take her and put her in this mental institution. Well, she was there for like 6 months. And the first 2 months we were coming to visit her, I remember when we first came in, I couldn't even recognize my sister. She had gained 100 pounds in 60 days. And what had happened was they put her on lithium, and the lithium shut her thyroid gland down completely. Sorry, there's something in my lip. And my sister was a vegetable. She was like, it was so scary. And I remember my dad was like, we got to get her out of here, Gina. Gina's my mom's name. We got to get her out of here, Gina. We're not leaving her here no more. And my parents got her out of there. Like, we had to. My sister was literally not even a person anymore. They had her on so many drugs. Okay. Eventually, after my parents got her out, my mom and dad were able to find a really good doctor that was able to get her on medications that worked for her and balanced her out. But my sister was never the same again. Her thyroid gland was never the same. She never was able to lose that weight. And it really made her depressed, you know. So my sister fell into drug addiction, and so did I. And we both started using drugs. And we became like a duo, you know. If I went to somebody's house and I was getting high, Michelle came with me, you know, and we were using drugs together. My junior year, I started dating a guy named Robert. And Robert was like my first real love. He was the first guy I ever had sex with. And I thought we were going to get married. I'll never forget. He gave me a promise ring. It was just like this, with the diamonds, channel diamonds in it. And I remember he gave me that diamond ring, and I thought, we're going to be married. We're going to be married, and we're going to have kids. He was tall. He was dark complected, not super dark, but tan, with green eyes and brown hair. And I thought, we're going to be married. His mom adored me. And we were together for like 5 years. We didn't break up until like a year or two after I graduated high school. But I was addicted to drugs. I was drinking alcohol. I was smoking weed. I was using cocaine. I was doing methamphetamine. And like I said, my introduction to stimulants was phentermine. My doctor prescribed it to me to lose weight. And so, honestly, if I had to pick what my drug of choice was, it was methamphetamine. I was always addicted to methamphetamine through my whole addiction from the time I started using drugs till the time I got sober in 2015. Methamphetamine was the one constant thing that I always did. So, me and Robert were together, like I said, like 5 years, but I was cheating on him. See, I had gotten really popular my junior year, and I started hanging out with like a different crowd of people. I was going to parties all the time. I was drinking, smoking, and I was literally dating another guy. So my boyfriend went to Hot Springs High, and the guy that I was dating was a guy that went to my school who was a quarterback of our football team. And so I was literally being the biggest hoochie mama ever. Like I was sowing my wild hoochie mama oats, okay? So anyway, my junior year, I'm at a basketball game, and before the basketball game that night, we had gotten really, really drunk on Seagram 7 and 7-Up. And I'll never forget it, y'all. I was at this basketball game, and I had no bloomers on, and I had on a fucking cheerleading skirt, and I was doing toe touches and fucking herkies, and I was literally flashing my vajayjay to the whole world. To the whole world. So I'm walking up the bleachers to go sit down, and I almost fall on my coach's pregnant wife. And so this tips him off that I am not right. My friend Jessica's like, girl, come on. We got to get you out of here. We got to get you out of here. You're leaving. And so Jessica grabs me, and she's taking me to the bathroom. When I tell you guys, I sat down in that stall. Look at me. I sat down on the toilet, and I said, bam, bam, bam. When you just like can't even control your body? That's what it was like. I was so drunk, I couldn't even hold myself up sitting on the toilet. Well, I got up. She was walking me out the door to take me home, and I got the tap on my shoulder. Mr. Brooks, our principal, son of a gun, he got me. And I looked at Jessica, and I was like, shit. And he said, Nicole, you're not going anywhere. You're coming with me. Well, Mr. Brooks and my dad had been in the military together, and my dad and him did not get along. And I remember looking at Mr. Brooks and saying, my dad's going to fuck you up. So they took me in the principal's office, right? They set me down. They called our cheer coaches, and they came in there. They're like, Nicole, where did you get the alcohol from? Under a tree. Who gave it to you? A midget. Like, just saying bullshit, y'all. Saying straight bullshit. Just to get out of there, And Mr. Brooks was like, you know what? You're going to jail. I might have let you go if you would have let us know where you got that alcohol from, but you're going to jail. And they called the police on me, and the police come pick me up. And I went to jail for a public intox at 17 years old. So mom and dad had to come pick me up, okay? And now I'm like, shit, I'm really going to be in trouble because now the jig is up. Like, my parents kind of knew I was getting fucked up, but now they know for sure that I'm fucking up. And so when they pick me up, I'm like, they're like, Nicole, what is wrong with you? The first thing out of my mouth, Michelle's smoking crack. Me and my sister still talk about this to this day. I was like, well, Michelle smokes crack. You know what I mean? And my mom and dad were like, what? And so I was trying to like shift the attention from me onto my sister so I wouldn't get in trouble. You know what I mean? Because we were all doing it. We were doing meth. And I said smoking crack. But that's what I thought, smoking crack. I said, Michelle's smoking crack. Anyways, my mom and dad were not going to listen to what Michelle was doing. They were wanting to know what was going on with me. They were wanting to know why, Nicole, why are you doing this? I was an A and B student. I was, like I said, on the dance team. I was in the marching band. I was a good student. I ruined my whole high school career, my junior and senior year, and I barely graduated, and it was all because of drugs. All because of drugs. All it took was me getting high and drunk one time, and I realized that it gave me this relief, and I chased that shit into the gates of insanity. Okay? I loved the way drugs and alcohol made me feel. I loved being out of control. I loved it. Okay, I would be lying to you if I said I didn't enjoy it. Okay, especially when I was younger. I looked forward to getting high. Okay, so my senior year, I barely graduated high school. My geometry teacher actually passed me with a D, and that's how I was able to pass my senior year. Now, you got to remember, I had a boyfriend. Remember, Robert? And then I had my other boyfriend that I was dating that was on the football team. Monster was his name. Monster was my first chocolate boyfriend. Honey, you know I had to try that out. And they say once you go black, you never go back. But honey, I've gone back and forth. I don't give a damn. I am attracted to who I'm attracted to. You could be black, you could be white, you could be Asian, you could be Mexican. I will tell you this, though. I have a thing for redheads because I have dated like 4 or 5 redheads in my day, and I married one. You know what I mean? So, come on now, Nicole. Get back on track. I'm kind of going off track now. Let me get some music for us that that will bring me back to those times, too. So anyway, I graduated high school, and all my friends were going to college. All my friends, right? You think I'm going to go to college, right? I went to college because all my friends were going to college. I signed up for community college at Garland County Community College, and when I tell you guys, I failed. I flunked out. I think I made it like a half a year and flunked out because I was using meth every single day. And when I tell you guys, I was so thin. I was so thin. Black circles under my eyes, so skinny from doing meth. And at this point, my parents know that I'm using drugs, but like I'm coming home and I'm sobering up when I come home. I have a full-time job. I'm paying my car payment. I'm paying my insurance. Like I'm still being responsible with my jobs, you know? I started working for JCPenney. JCPenney was the first job that I worked out of high school. And I worked there doing people's makeup, okay? I love doing people's makeup. And I got paid for it. I was good at it, you guys. Very, very good at doing people's makeup. I'll never forget the first big tip I got. It was a $50 tip. And a girl came in and she needed her makeup done for a bikini contest at one of the clubs down the street. And so I did her makeup and she won. And she came back and tipped me $50. I'll never forget that. Well, my methamphetamine addiction, thank you. My methamphetamine addiction was getting out of control. And I had a guy that was dealing it to me. His name was Derek. Derek was, bringing me meth up to my job. And so what I started to do was I started to give him free products from my job for meth. And I got caught doing that. And that's how I lost my job working at JCPenney. Now, I didn't tell you guys about my best friend, Nikki, did I? Me and Nikki started working at JCPenney together. Nikki, when I tell you guys, the way I made friends with Nikki was we were in high school, and we were outside on the playground one day at the picnic tables or something like that, and Nikki had a fake tooth. I didn't know that. And one day we were sitting there talking, and she popped it out. And she started waving it at me, like that. And that's how we became friends. We were friends ever since. Oh yeah, my mom watches all my videos. She actually will come on sometimes and say hi. So she waved her tooth at me, and that's how we became friends. So Nikki and I had become addicted to drugs together, really, really bad. Only Nikki had started shooting up opiates, and this is before I had really started messing with opiates. This was when Oxycontin was out, and so she was shooting up oxys, and she was dating this guy from like fucking Greenbrier or some shit like that, some out in the country place. Well, long story short, she ended up killing herself. Me and Robert had broken up. I went through a deep depression, and I started dating LD. And me and LD's relationship was horrible. He would beat me. And so at one point in our relationship, Nikki and her husband let me move in with them. And they paid my car payment, they paid my insurance, and they took care of me because I was being beat. I was getting my ass beat by my boyfriend. And she was my best friend. Well, my dumb ass went back to him. And after I went back to him and moved out of her house, her and her husband were just like having fights and stuff, and she thought he was cheating on her. And he went to work and he shut his phone off. And she had been trying to call him and trying to call him. And I guess she just couldn't take it anymore, and she shot herself in the chest. She was my best friend. And when I tell you guys, I literally went off the deep end. Yeah, buddy?
We got this crazy weird drink.
Oh!
They gave us it for free.
Thank you. Give me a kiss. Love you. Nikki had a little brother. He was a teenager, or a little bit younger than us. And her mom, but her dad had died when she was younger. When she killed herself, I went crazy. And I went off the deep end. And I started injecting methamphetamine. I finally got away from LD, and I kind of skipped over that, you guys, but I was in a relationship I've talked about that so much. I was in a relationship with LD for like 5.5 years, and I met him when I was on meth. I was high on meth one day, and I don't know what it was about him, but I just felt like I could save him, which you can never save somebody, y'all, unless they want to be saved. You know what I mean? They have to want it more. And this guy, he didn't want to. He wouldn't even barely work. I did everything, okay? Like, I took care of everything. I worked 2-3 jobs sometimes, okay? It was terrible, and he would just beat me and beat me and beat me and beat me. One of the first signs of him being a fucking woman beater was, when he threw my car into oncoming traffic, and we almost got killed. We were hit almost completely head on, and my whole car got totaled. It was terrible. This always happened with him because he had this temper that was horrible, and he could not control it. So he eventually cheated on me, and that's how I got away from him finally, because he had me brainwashed. He had me brainwashed that I deserved to get beat, that I would never find anyone that loved me. And so that's why I stayed with him for so many years, because that's what I thought. I thought I wasn't good enough. So once I got away from him, and after Nikki passed away, I was kind of out, I was on my own. And that's when I started to inject methamphetamine. And injecting drugs is a totally different situation than taking them through your nose or through your mouth. Okay? It's just very severe, okay? And that's what I was doing. I had taught myself how to shoot up. I was actually over at a friend's house, and they were all doing it. See, I'd always just done hot rails. They were all doing it, and they were in the back room, and one day I was in the living room, and they all came out from the back room, and they were like super duper high. And I was like, why are y'all so messed up? And that's when I realized that they were injecting. Injecting goes straight to your bloodstream. Okay, straight to it is literally like 100% And it's just so much stronger than snorting it or taking it orally. And so I went back there because curiosity killed the cat, and I asked them to do it for me. And at first they said no, we're not going to do that. But I kept on bothering them and kept on bothering them. And that's when they decided they did it. And when they did that, that's when my whole life changed. That is when my whole life changed. Okay, the moment I started injecting, my whole being was overtaken by drugs. At first, when I was using and taking pills orally and snorting them, like I still had my brain with me. I still could get away from it sometimes. You know what I mean? Once I started injecting, I was locked in. And I could not get disconnected, So my life quickly spiraled out of control. Within 6 months of the first time I injected, I was busted for possession of a controlled substance, methamphetamine, and that was my first felony charge. My only one, thank you Jesus, Class C felony. But motherfucker, that felony caused me so much problems. I took 3 years probation, failed all my drug tests the first year, and then they revoked my probation and sent me to prison. Okay, so I went to prison and did my time there. I was in prison for a year. The kind of prison that I went to was a boot camp style prison, where, it's a therapeutic community basically. And all the girls at the prison, the guards just guard us, and we do everything. We cook, we clean, everything. The whole prison is ran by the inmates. And so I was there for a year. And then when I got out of there, that's when I decided I need to start over. I need to parole out to a place that's not Hot Springs. And that's when I paroled out here to Little Rock. And I paroled out to a halfway house because I wanted to stay sober. Now, the last 2 months I was in prison, I made it the whole time I was in prison without getting high. Until I met a bitch named Rhonda. What's up with me and bitches named Rhonda? Rhonda? I caught her one day in the bathroom getting pills out of her punani. And when I figured out she had hydros and shit, I said, bitch, you going to give me some of those or I'm going to tell on you? I wouldn't have told on her, but, I wanted to get some of them. So the last 2 months I was there, I was getting high on pills with Rhonda. And let me just tell you something. Getting high in prison is miserable because the whole time I was worried about getting caught. It just sucked. It was not worth it at all. But I did it. So, I finally got out of prison. My parents came and got me when I released, and they took me to my sober living house. I had to work to get my car back. I had to get a job. I had to pay my own rent. I did all that, and I started working.
That drink? Have you drank it?
Yeah, you can have it. Did
you even drink it?
Huh, you have it, babe. I started working the 12 steps, going to meetings, got a sponsor, all of that good stuff. And I was doing really, really well. I started working for Kroger, and I was making good money, too. I was making real good money. That's when I relapsed. Only this time, instead of relapsing on meth, I relapsed on opiates. And this is where my addiction to opiates got really, really bad. And I started injecting oxys. Once I started injecting oxys, I was spending so much money, you guys. I'm telling you, hundreds of dollars a day to stay high on opiates. And I made good money, but not that good. So I started living with the guy who was selling them. His name was Gerald, and he lived in the high rise right across from where I lived. Well, honey, eventually I got caught up, and my counselor knew I was getting high. And so she was like, I'm going to have to kick you out. So I moved in with her daughter because me and her daughter were best friends. My counselor was not happy about that. But I paid her daughter's rent for about 4 months, $400 a month. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to get out on my own. I need to move in with somebody who is like me. And that's when I met Tara. Tara and me moved in, and we got high every single day till the break of dawn. She was crazy. I was crazy. We were a match made in heaven. Um, Tara's the one who called CPS on me. I mean, this girl, we had become, it was 2010 when I met her. And so, my son wasn't born until 2014. So from 2010 to 2012, I was just mucking it up all over Little Rock. Oh, shit. I was, fucked up. I had my job still. I didn't get fired until I met my husband in 2012. And me and him were getting higher than Cooter Brown one night. And the next morning I woke up and I took some Xanax because I was going to try and knock the edge off. I went to my job and I was trying to work. And I guess I was slurring my speech and everything. And they knew that I was fucked up. So that's when they said, Nicole, we need to take you to go get a drug test. I was like, okay. And so I went with them. And then when we got there, I said, I ain't taking this motherfucking shit. And I refused to take it. You guys, they fired me. And that's when I finally lost my job at Kroger. I had that job for 5 years. And I finally lost it that day. Well, me and Neil, we fell in love. And, what is this?
Burrito.
Okay, thank you. Me and Neil met over at my friend Kaylee and Hunter's house. Neil was sleeping, or I was sleeping on the couch. That was where my little bedroom was at. And, I'll never forget. He was sitting on the couch. He has little red spiky hair. And he looked so cute. And I was like, I like him. So I started talking to him. You guys, we hit it off. From the moment we met. Damn, something in my throat. From the moment we met, we hit it off. But me and Neil, I didn't realize he was an addict like me. Until one day, I had to go to court. And he was at work and I was at work. And he was like, it's no big deal. Have somebody bring you up here and you can use my truck. And I was like, okay, cool. He said, I left you something in the glove box. Honey, he had left me 3 methadone 10 pills in the glove box. And that's when I realized we're about to fuck some shit up. When I tell you for the next 5 years, we were fucked out of our mind, high as hell all the time. Oh, 3 years, 2012 to 2015. When I tell you guys we ruined so much shit, we almost killed ourselves. Hey Paige, you guys heard a lot of my stories. Me and Neil, we had no off switch. One time, we had went to get a whole bunch of Xanax and a whole bunch of Roxy's. Well, I was driving the car and Neil started having a seizure. And so I was like, I'm going to save his life. So I'm driving down the street and literally the freaking hospital is right across the street. I drive past that hospital, drive past the other one in a Xanax. I was in a Xanax blur. Down the other one and ran into a brick wall. A brick motherfucking wall. I almost killed my husband that day. He actually had to be intubated, dude. It was the scariest shit I've ever been through. I was very scared. 30 milligram oxycodone is what they are. So, that's when his mom and dad realized that we were both bad off on drugs. And we needed to get help. You know what I mean? My husband tried to go to treatment. He ended up leaving the treatment center after 2 weeks. Coming back home. And we kind of had just given up on ourselves, And one day I was downstairs in the kitchen and his dad looked at me and he said, "Are you pregnant?" I was like, "No." He said, "Yeah, you are. You're glowing." Whatever. A week later, I took a test and I was pregnant. When I tell you guys, I was so afraid because I knew that I couldn't stop using drugs. But I tried. I tried to stop using drugs and I would get sober and then relapse, get sober and then relapse. I ended up having my little boy on July 4th of 2014, and I was high on meth. Tara was there, my mom was there, my husband's family was there. We were all there. And I gave birth to my son, and he was perfect in every single way. When he was born, everything was perfect with him. Nobody said anything to me about drugs. Nothing. For the next 2 days, I laid there and I breastfed him, and they made sure he was healthy and okay. And after 2 days, I went home with my baby. And I thought, oh my God, I have just escaped scot-free. I'm never going to get high ever again. And I meant that with all my heart. I was like, I'm never going to use again. I just got out of this hospital without getting my child taken away by CPS. I got to do the right thing. And so I started white knuckling it. Breastfeeding my son, doing the right thing, everything. And I was doing so good. So was my husband. He was working full time. Yes, Paige, I do. What I think it was I think it was God. Because God knew that if I didn't bond with my child, that I would never be able to get sober. So I had my son for a year, and I was able to bond with him. I relapsed at 90 days sober, and in July 2nd of 2015, 2 days before my son's first birthday, my best friend Tara called Child Protective Services on me. She didn't call him because she was worried. She called him because she got mad at me one day. Okay? She called him because she got mad because she owed me money, and I went and got it from her boyfriend. So, at first, CPS had said that they weren't going to take Nate. They had said that they were just going to put a protection plan in place and that we had to go to treatment. And I was like, okay, I'm going right now. I was in there. Then they came back the next day and said that they were going to take him. Well, I didn't want my son going to my sister-in-law because she and my husband didn't get along, and she would end up trying to keep him from me. My parents were in New York. So I was like, why don't we let Nate go with your parents, Neil? And he's like, okay. Do you know what CPS did? CPS said no because they said his parents were too old. They were 65 years old, y'all. They just wanted my son in custody. So my son went to foster care. Best foster care home there was, though. But I tell y'all, they were nice. And they loved my son like he was their own. And I love them people. They were good people. I'm grateful that he went there because they were good. But before he was able to be placed in their home, they had to put him in this other place that was like a respite home because they had nowhere for my son to go, y'all. They just took him with nowhere for him to go. It was bullshit. But I went straight into rehab. Now, while I was in rehab, the first 2 weeks I was there, I was leaving treatment because I was going back and forth to court. And so I was getting high on Xanax still. And I'm so ashamed of that, y'all. I can't believe I did that shit. But, again, I was trying to escape reality, you know what I mean? And so I got busted for getting high on Xanax at treatment. They told my caseworker. My caseworker came in and sat down. And she was like, you realize that I could terminate your rights right now? I didn't think it was that serious for some reason. Like, I don't know. I just wasn't grasping it. And when she told me that, I was like, you know what? I am definitely not going to. I'm going to get back on track. Because, honey, I don't want him to give away my son. You know what I mean? Oh, this is my son's. I have had my son back for like 6 years, y'all. This is way over with. They were really good people, too. They got pregnant. They didn't have any kids. When they had my son, they got pregnant with their baby. And so it was an amazing situation. But let me just explain something to you guys about how Arkansas foster care, how Arkansas Department of Human Services was. They didn't help me and my husband at all. Okay? They didn't provide us with resources. They didn't help us with shit. Okay? I did everything. I found me a treatment center. I found Neil an outpatient center. I found us extra parenting classes. I found everything. Everything. I had to call them and remind them when it was time to drug test us because they would forget. And it was really important that we had those tests done because it was for our case, you know. They were just off. Nothing was done right, okay? Me and my husband had to do everything. Imagine somebody that don't know how to advocate for themselves. Imagine somebody who doesn't have the wherewithal like I did to call a treatment center for myself and all that. They would get totally screwed, you know? It was a bad deal all around. Yes, they would spend so much time with people who were literally failing their drug tests, people who were not coming to their visits with their kids. But me and Neil were there like every time the door opened, and they wouldn't help us, man. They didn't help us. We had to do it all. Now, I have nothing against like foster parents. My beef is with CPS, okay? I have seen CPS take away kids who they had no business taking away, and then leaving kids in situations who they needed to get out of those situations. And so I just don't trust it. You know, I don't trust it at all. So, for instance, my son got taken away because me and my husband failed the drug test, okay? We lived in this house. We had family support, everything. My son could have been left with us, or he could have been left with my mother and father-in-law. But tell me why this. Tell me why Tara got her little girl taken away. I didn't call him. And given right back to her. And this girl literally was doing drugs every single day. Like, it just don't make sense. It just doesn't make sense at all. Okay, and so that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's like, doesn't make sense. You know, I think a lot of the reasons why they took Nathaniel was because they knew that we were well off and that we could, you know, that we would get shit done. Yeah, they did the same thing to us. They wouldn't let my mother and father-in-law have my son, which was so crazy to me because they should always let your child go with their next of kin, you know? And so it was a horrible, horrible experience. Now, I will tell you this. My caseworker, the second one, because I had two, the one who originally took my son away from me, she quit right after she decided to take my son away from me. The second one, her name's Kawachi, and I still talk to her to this day. We're friends on Facebook. She really tried to help me. She was a good person. She could see that me and my husband loved our son. You know what I mean? And she wasn't a judgmental person. She was down to earth. She had been in the foster care system when she was a little girl. And I know all this because we became friends, and she shared that with me. She was a good person, that she was doing the job and actually trying to make a difference to help people. Okay, I believe that there's people that work for CPS that are actually trying to help people. And then I'll believe that there are people who are literally trying to kidnap people's kids. I believe that there are people who are biased, who come in there, and if you live in a trailer, they say, or if you live in the hood part of town, and they have this power trip where they're like, oh, I can take babies away from people. I can take kids away from people. And it always, you know what, I'm going to say it like I'm going to say it. Y'all, it's always the big fat white women. Always. Always the big fat white girls that work for CPS, that come in with their glasses on and their little necklace with their little keys on it. And, or I promise you that. It's always. Now, let me tell you who bent over backwards for me. Kawachi. She was a black girl. She had been through the system before. She had been taken away from her family. Okay? And she helped me. She loved me. She saw that I was a good person and that I wanted to be better, even though I made mistakes when I was getting high in treatment. You know, and she sat down with me and she got on my level and was like, girl, you are going to fucking lose your son. You know what I mean? It's like these old women is what I'm trying to say, y'all. It's old women, and they just happen to be white women. And I see it happening a lot in Texas, too. Like, the Texas CPS system is horrible. Like, they just be taking kids away to be doing it for sport. I swear, for sport. Isn't that terrible? I need to get a new one of these. I need to call Denessa Myrick's to get that fixed. I swear they do. Yeah. So I went, listen to me. I'm going to have to wash my face while I talk to you guys. When they got taken away from me, like I said, me and my husband, we did not pass go. We did not collect $200. Like, I went straight into rehab. I didn't take like a week off and go get fucked up. Like, I went straight into treatment. Now, in treatment, I fucked up. Yes. But I went straight in there right away, you know? I saw people who were like failing drug tests and shit, who were not coming, and they were helping. It was just so backwards, y'all. So backwards. Anyways, let me get off the subject of CPS because I can't stand them fools. I just telling y'all about it. We got my son back. Me and my husband, we jumped through hoops, okay? And we did everything that we were supposed to do and more. We had our hair follicle tests. We got into treatment. We got on MAT. And we did everything. Now, right before we were about to get my son back, I'll never forget it. The attorney ad litem tried to say that because we were using Suboxone treatment, that we were not in recovery and that we needed to come completely off of it before we could have our kid back. You guys got to understand something. We only had like 6 months sober with the medication, and she was wanting us to jump off of it right then, you know? And so I'll never forget it, you guys. I got my doctor, the nurse, my counselor, me, everybody I could that could speak up for us and tell them about the change in us, you know? Because me and my husband went from not being able to have jobs, hold jobs, you know, and actually function in life to both being full-time employed, you know, paying all our bills. I got a car, he got a car, or he had one already. I got a vehicle, I had a full-time job, he had a full-time job. You know, like, we really turned our lives around. We did a whole 180, you know. It was a miracle how much we turned our life around, okay? Because we were bad off on drugs. And so the fact that we were able to turn it around and make it work, you know, it was huge deal. And so we had people that would come, that came and vouched and stuck up for us. My counselor, Neil's counselor. Then what they tried to do was they asked my husband, they said, Neil, do you drink alcohol? And Neil goes, well, it's not illegal, but I don't drink. And then the attorney ad litem was like, so you're drinking alcohol? And my husband was like, no, I said it's not illegal to drink alcohol, but I don't even drink because we're not drinkers. And she tried to run with that and act like he was getting drunk or something on the down low. It was a whole shit show. She was pulling from every little pocket she could to try and keep our son from us, which I don't understand that, dude, because you could see that Nate had a loving family. You know what I mean? You could see that my mother and father-in-law were there. Now, my parents were in New York, so they couldn't be there, but they were, supporting us from where they were at. Everybody, we had so much support with all that makeup. We had so much support, and I just couldn't understand why this woman kept trying to, push us and get our son to where he couldn't come back with us. People say that's their job, but I don't believe I think that they are supposed to advocate for the child, but the child should always go back with the parent. The goal should be reunification, okay? Unless that child is being sexually abused by the parent, that child is being beaten. The way we neglected our son was we were on drugs, okay? We didn't beat him or hurt him or any of those things. We were just addicts and we were sick and we needed help. So I could not understand why this woman was trying so hard to keep my son from me. It was pissing me the fuck off, okay? And I was starting to get real mad. So, long story short, I went up there and I preached from the pulpit, honey, okay? I went up there and I fucking schooled their asses on the disease of addiction. Had my counselor school their asses, my doctor, and anybody else that would speak for me and Neil. And that judge said, ding, ding, Nate's going home. And I cried my eyes out. Nate was in the courtroom, sitting with the foster parents, and he got to come home with us that day. I cried my eyes out. I was so grateful. Oh, thank you. So, so grateful. My baby was coming home, and we didn't have to deal with that bullshit ever again. Now, I'll tell you this. Nate doesn't remember one bit of that. If I didn't tell him he had gotten it taken away from me, he would have never known. Okay? He was gone for 10 months. It was about a year. At 10 months, he was able to come home and start staying the night with us. But our case was closed at 1 year. We worked our asses off to get our baby back. Worked our damn asses off. And I'll tell you this right now. I have PTSD from that. From having my son taken away from me by CPS. I constantly worry about, anything. I worry and I think, what if the teacher calls CPS because I didn't pack Nate a lunch with all 5 food groups or whatever, 6 food groups. I think stuff that's just, unreasonable. And it's because I have PTSD from having him taken away from me. I'm still afraid to this day that it could happen again. And I shouldn't have to worry about that. No, that's not normal. But that's what they do. That's how it scars you for life, man. It scars you for life. Because it's so easy for them to come in your house and just take your kid. That's why don't ever open the door. Don't ever open the door. Never let them in your house. Okay, you guys? You make them go get a warrant. You don't let your kid go out of your house with them. Absolutely don't do it. And I see people here on TikTok who they think it's a game, dude. And they call Child Protective Services on each other. And they do all this crazy shit. And I can't even understand that, man. I would never do that. I don't care how much I hate your ass. I would never, ever try to hurt your child because I didn't like you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's crazy. It's so scary. And I see it happening on here all the time. All the time. Yeah, never let them in. Never, ever let them in. Now I know. Back then I was naive, you know? And I didn't know. Because here's the thing, you guys. You have, like, rights as a American citizen, you know? Like, I can do things in my home if I want to. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying. Oh, yeah, you know, Jill, because it happens to my friend over there that you mod for. And that makes me so mad because it's like, why would you want to hurt her child? You know, when you do that kind of stuff, you're hurting the child, okay? More than you're hurting the person. It's sick. Yep. Oh, they're in your life still, Effie? The CPS is? Oh, girl, I'm fucking praying for you because that's the worst. Where is my... Here it is, vitamin C. Yeah, I watched another girl, Courtney. I watched her. It happened to her. Then I watched these other girls that are like really big content creators. I can't remember, Perfectly Catherine or something like that, or Perfectly Cat. I can't remember. It happened to her. Everybody pray for Alicia's grandma. And I'll let my mama know to give her a prayer. My mom's a prayer warrior. Oh, really? That makes me upset. How old are you, Effie? Oh, really, baby love? That sucks. See, that was what I was afraid of with my sister-in-law. That's why I didn't give my sister-in-law custody of Nate. Because I knew it would turn into some kind of fight. You know what I mean? And I didn't want that. Like me and Neil, we fucked up, you know, and we went and got help. And now, we wouldn't even think about doing that. We would not even, when I tell you guys we are so boring now, we wouldn't even think about doing drugs and putting our son in harm's way. You know what I'm saying? But back then, we were sick. We were sick and we needed help. I'm so glad that we were able to get help, you know? So, I'm about to get into bed here in a second, guys, but I need to call my tattoo girl and see what she decided on for my tattoo because I go tomorrow at noon. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So anyway, that's my story, y'all. And like I said, my son saved my life. My son saved my life. So, yeah. I could have gone into so much more detail, but we would be here all day. You know? Okay, yeah. So, I mean, basically, I just sat down with my son and I asked him, I said, do you remember when you weren't with me? And he was like, no. I was like, you don't remember not being, with us, maybe living with somebody else? And he says that he doesn't remember. But I'll tell you this. He does remember where they lived because when we drive by that area, he talks about remembering going to a school over there. And that was his preschool. His first ever preschool he went to. So, and I also, my son, he has abandonment. He gets scared that I'm going to not come and pick him up from school. And so that's another way that I know that him being taken away from me affects him. Do you know what I'm saying? Because if I'm even 2 minutes late to pick him up from school, he gets scared. And when I get there, he'll be crying. And I've never forgotten him ever. Ever. So, I'm really open and honest with Nate because I just don't want to hide anything from him. You know? Oh, I'm about to go to bed, y'all. Ooh, I'm tired. My eyes just got dizzy, too. But anyways, I'm 40 and happy birthday, and I love you guys, and I hope you enjoyed listening to my story time tonight. I'm sorry if it was super long. I love you guys. I love y'all. If you want to join me tomorrow night for my members only, click the link in my bio and join my members only thingy-majigger. And I just love you guys. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all's support, and I'll keep y'all posted on, what's going on with me, how my recovery's going. So, I'm doing good. Tomorrow, I'm taking y'all with me to get this tattoo, and we'll see how it goes. Okay? All right. Love you guys. Good night.